Hi, today I wanted to address a particular issue of a question that really comes up a lot when I'm talking to junior designers or ones that are interested in getting into UX design. But I also feel that this video is going to be applicable for those who are considering doing coding or having kind of this career move and considering doing a UX or a coding boot camp in order to kind of get your entrance into a certain kind of career, make a lateral move, or if you're kind of coming out of college for the first time, trying to enter into a certain kind of industry. So my name is Ken and you're watching Mastering UX. With this word boot camp, there's this word boot, and this kind of refers to the matter of getting this kind of start off the ground, kind of going from zero to somewhere. And so professionally, there are these boot camps that have been created, and they're designed to be somewhat intense, fast paced, just like an army boot camp or a fitness boot camp. And the idea is that by putting you through this kind of fast, intense program, it'll get you up and running and going somewhere and get you to the point where, like a soldier, let's say, you come out of this kind of period where maybe you have no fitness at all, and now you're sort of a soldier ready to be trained in the finer things of kind of advancing through the ranks and having a career in the army, or whatever kind of military service that would be. Well, these professional boot camps kind of formed in the same fashion. They can be very quite intense. They can be very fast paced. You can cover a lot of topics. They can give some exercises that kind of bring you through the paces to get going on something very quickly. And so the first thing I want you to kind of consider is the motivation of a boot camp. There's a pro and there's a con. So on the pro, this matter of being forced kind of sort of not asking whether you're going to do something every day, but kind of being forced to kind of step into something that maybe you don't even think you can do, there is some merit to that. We know that decisions are very expensive. We know that our willpower is very weak. And by taking this kind of forced way of doing something, kind of being held accountable, and kind of this sort of the expression, a gun to your head kind of approach, this can actually work for a lot of folks. But I would say you have to decide whether this is an approach that's effective on you, whether you appreciate this kind of approach. On the negative side, we do know that self-paced learning definitely has its advantages. I appreciate on Khan Academy, the creator of this kind of program. It's really famous. He's really has a big insight that this matter of self-paced learning and learning something thoroughly so that it becomes a foundation stone for the future really has its benefits. He's really kind of proven that when you kind of move on according to the pace according to the level you're at, and make sure that you learn that foundational piece first before you move on, there's definitely some big merits to that. So in this matter of motivation, sometimes you may find yourself moving really fast. You didn't really learn a topic very quickly in this boot camp, and that could be demotivating, that you don't have this kind of foundation. You're sort of confused. You kind of feel like, you're learning this new topic, but there's something that you're kind of missing. This is something that can happen with a boot camp. The next topic that I want to bring out is price. Price is, these ones that are specially oriented towards getting you your foot in the door. And sometimes there's a salesperson that is kind of trying to sell you on the idea that you're going to get a job after you complete this, because we're going to give you a portfolio or a sort of working set of code examples. And this is going to kind of, quote, quote, guarantee that you get a job. And then the price is going to be $2,000 to $15,000. Well, I do have some problems with this kind of way of thinking about things. So on the pro, it's not much of a pro, but sometimes having a price and having this accountability, you signed up, you paid money, this can kind of be a motivational factor for you. You're sort of committing to it. And I do think sometimes money does help people commit. On the negative side, I just want to say that you should never, ever think that school, a program, or even a tool is ever going to guarantee that something is going to happen. I would say, really, you can never guarantee that something is going to happen. I really want to emphasize that you really want to come in with the mindset is you are the one that's going to get a job. That boot camp is not going to the interview with you. They're not going to hold your hand. They're not going to tell you how you should, well, they may give you some advice on how to conduct that interview. But at the end of the day, you will be the one that gets the job. You will go to the interview. You will have your resume. You will have your particular situation on things that are pros and cons, even your stage of life. How quick you are off your feet, your natural talents, all things considered, there's a total package, and that's you. And so I want to say that you need to get the job and you need to have an honest kind of assessment. Are you the right person who's willing to spend all this money in the way of an investment or risk, you could say? With your given talent, stage of life, your financial situation, all things considered, are you willing to take that kind of risk? So I really would ask you to really be careful on this price side of things. The next thing that I do want to say about a boot camp is they are going to have this kind of sort of peanut butter spread approach of trying to cover A to Z, be somewhat comprehensive. It's going to be academic, it's going to be practical. And so this is a pro. It's good, and I would even say a lot of practitioners out in the field that kind of organically grew it from, say, web design to UX research in a natural kind of way. A lot of times there's gaps in our academic kind of learning or kind of learning the best practices on things. We just kind of learned it in the field and kind of are missing some things. So that boot camp has that advantage of kind of taking a systematic approach. Same thing on the practice. They're going to try to give you some good examples so that you can kind of both have exercises to actually work out the things that you're learning, and they're also going to give you exercises that are going to generate some kind of deliverable portfolio, something that you can showcase when you go on a job interview. This could be working software code. This could be a certain kind of project that's impressive. And usually on the UX side of things, they're going to have you work out, some case studies and then build up some kind of portfolio and kind of give you advice on how to have that portfolio ready so that when you go on a job interview, you have one of the most important kind of assets that you need to get a job. Well, on the negative side, I do want to say, even though they are giving you something that's somewhat comprehensive, I appreciate that it's academic and practical. On the negative side, I will say that there's only so much depth that they're going to give you. And when you're doing some kind of self-learning or when you learn things on the job, there's a lot of times you end up going a lot deeper into certain kind of areas. And, there's been times in my career where I got super, I had a need to really get into even 10 pixel margins and really kind of sweat the details of something very, very detailed. And those things caused me to grow, even though I would say that those 10 pixels aren't the most important topic for a UX career. But by kind of taking these things and getting kind of vertical slices in various areas, that kind of learning is different. It gives you a different kind of perspective. And then what it's also, and by the way, I am a kind of a self-taught person. I, use books. I did things like, do two chapters a day on certain kind of topics and kind of self-taught myself web design. But by kind of doing the self-learning approach, there were certain topics that really interested me. And by taking your own way, you get to kind of carve out certain kind of nuances that you want to be more specialized. And you may even find that there's certain kind of there may be even a pivot in the direction that you're thinking about. You may decide that you're more interested in design thinking than UX research and kind of have this pivot. Not that you wouldn't learn UX research in addition, but you may find that there's some kind of interest there that you didn't really kind of realize in doing this kind of self-paced learning. So that's something that I just thought that you'd want to keep in mind. The last thing I do want to make mention of is, a boot camp can be a committal of time. It could be a commitment of energy. It's this kind of fast moving train approach. And what I do want to say is this can lead to burnout. So you're not able to get off the train once you're on the train, keep your arms and legs inside the train. This train is moving, you've invested dollars. There are some flexible programs, I know that, I realize that are out there, but I do want you to kind of consider that, you're going with a very regimented program. And, the con is that you're missing out on kind of really customizing a program that could really fit for you. There is the option of putting together, there's a lot of great free resources out there on, of course, YouTube, websites, interaction design. You can go to Nielsen Norman's website, usability.gov. There's a ton of resources that you can learn a whole lot from. And then, you may want to consider the idea of doing a kind of a project on your own, maybe build a website for somebody using a CMS system. There's a lot of ways where you can start getting your foot in the door. So, in conclusion, I just want to leave you off with a couple of points of advice. And that is first, that just realize that a boot camp is a good way to get started, but it's not built for sort of a long-term approach to lifelong learning or kind of development in your career. And so when you're pursuing a boot camp, just realize that the boot camp is designed to only kind of get you started, and then you really kind of almost need a different program to go on with your kind of advancement. And you may find that the boot camp doesn't fully complete your learning, or your portfolio still has things that need to be worked on. Never think that the boot camp is something that's just kind of in a box and it's going to kind of magically transport you from point A to point B. If that boot camp does get you to get a job, congratulations, that's great. I have no problems with that, and I won't say that a boot camp can't get you there. But, also be open to the idea that you can continue to, work on your portfolio, work on developing certain kind of tools in the toolbox, like, it could be, if you're a coder, certain kind of aspects of handling data, or if you're a designer, it might be certain aspects of using the tool Figma, or whatever it would be. There's a whole host of different things. Always realize you can always advance things. You can always both directly improve your portfolio, work on your resume, understand how to conduct your interview. So just realize that the boot camp is not the end all be all. It's just the starting point to get you up off the ground. The second piece of advice that I'd like to give you is, before you start a boot camp, I would really like to recommend that you try to learn on your own as much as you can. I know that even some programs even offer you the ability to kind of do some kind of start off with the academic portion for even $20 a month. And doing this kind of program will kind of, one, enable you to figure out even if you like it enough or not. Two, is always realize that you have the opportunity to learn as much as you can before you start a boot camp. First, by doing some kind of self-learning, whether it be things that are practical or kind of on the theoretical conceptual side of things. One, you're going to save all that money, find out if this is something that you're really interested, and be able to kind of explore. And it's always good to just kind of know what kind of resources are good out there, and kind of develop your own way of kind of learning by yourself. And then, if you're doing kind of these practical examples, if you can kind of put together ways to kind of put your work into practice, build a free website for somebody, or find a way to do some kind of project for free. In this kind of way, you'll go into the boot camp not feeling so overwhelmed. It can be very tough if you're trying to learn a lot of conceptual material that's very abstract, and then you're moving, the train is moving, like I said, and then you're getting hit with a deliverable, some kind of exercise that they want you to get done, sometimes in a very aggressive timeline. All that can be very overwhelming. It can cause you to be burnout. And, the worst thing that could happen is you feel negative about the very thing that you're trying to study. So those are my bits of advice advice. I do want to say I'm not against doing a boot camp, but I just want to give you a couple of things to think about before you go into a boot camp. So my name is Ken again, and if you came this far in the video, I really appreciate that. Go ahead and like and subscribe to this channel if you found it useful, or make a comment. That's something that really does help the algorithm on YouTube. So anyways, thanks for sticking with me, and I'll see you on the next episode.